Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. I don't often open a video with a movement shot, but when we are talking about the most beautiful automatic movement in existence, and yes, I mean ever, it deserves a case back opener. This is the Moritz Grossmann Hamatic Vintage. So the Hamatic with a hammer style or bumper style automatic winding system debuted in 2019, and for 2020 they launched the Hamatic Vintage with a more vintage inflected dial that is a better stylistic match for the movement and the case. This is the one. So launched in 2020, it's a white gold 25-piece limited edition. The example in my hand was sold in 2021. The timepiece is easy to wear, though it is not tiny. 41 millimeters in diameter in white gold, 50.5 from lug to lug, 11.8 millimeters thick, so it's fairly slim for an auto, and then a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. When you throw it on the wrist, it wears nicely on a wrist of 16 centimeters circumference, although I do think that's probably the lower limit because of the 50.5 lug to lug. It's a fairly broad watch, but it's also a flat watch, so it will slide delightfully easy beneath a tight sleeve or dress cuff. It's got a nice weight to it. It's a watch with a lot of presence. It has more of a Teutonic character than, say, a Patek Calatrava 6119. The strap is lovely and equal to the billing of the watch. Very large, rectangular, symmetrical scale alligator leather, which is always indicative of a high-quality cut of the animal, and it feels substantial with some stuffing or bolstering to give it volume. Monotone stitch, no crimping, no gouging, calfskin on the bottom, brand new Moritz Grossmann factory strap. We have a folded edge here, and then you can see Grossmann drills the lugs very close to the case to improve small wrist fit, and in order to prevent any impingement to the motion of the strap, a curved spring bar is used. Here we have the Grossmann logo that's used on the standard version of the Hamatic, and a lot of folks thought that this logo on the dial of the original 2019 Hamatic was a bit too modern for the spirit of the watch. So it's still on the white gold buckle, but it's not on the dial. You can see a better look at the buckle. It's got a feature I always appreciate on a pin buckle, which is that the bridge over the center is elevated so that when it is on the wrist, it doesn't stack up as high or create as much stack height. So an appreciated feature. You can see the lugs are dramatically crafted. This is a very complex lug welding where the case and the lugs are made separately, slotted together, and then welded. Then, through filing, the gathered metal from the weld is removed to create these super sharp break lines. And it's a work of art. You can also see that the case has a little bit of a negative tumble home. You see how it's kind of conical and then it rolls inward towards the bezel? The bezel is quite minimal here, and you can see the crown is unbranded, an act of modesty. The dial is absolutely gorgeous. It is a disc of sterling silver, but you can see it's been blackened with transferred radially arrayed Roman numerals, including a watchmaker's 4 and a vintage Moritz Grossmann logo. We have a chemin de fer for reading the minutes outboard and the seconds and the small seconds. We do actually have a hacking or stop seconds function here. Moritz Grossmann hands are made in-house, and they are among the most achingly beautiful on the market. Needle-like, rolled to prevent optical illusion, and as you can see on the end, just a little bit of swell to these mirror polished hands that are so delicate it seems as though you might bend them just by looking at them too hard. Notice that the hands and the cannon pinion at center mirror finished, beautifully executed. These hands are part of what you're paying for when you buy a Grossmann. I believe that Grossmann watches are among the best finished in the world, superior to Lange, and quite frankly, on a level that the Holy Trinity generally only reserves for its most expensive collection of watches. So a Vacheron from the Cabinotier, or a Patek Philippe Grand Complication, or something from Audemars Piguet's very low volume Renault et Papy build-outs. So this movement is difficult to photograph because I don't think photos do it justice, but let's get started and I'll see if I can convey what I'm seeing to those of you out on the net. So the way this works is we have this egg-shaped bumper. There's a precious metal mass on its end, and it rocks back and forth, and via a system of ratchets and lever arms, it winds the barrel, which enjoys a 72-hour power reserve, which is actually quite a bit more than a standard Moritz Grossmann. They're usually 42. Here we have Moritz Grossmann's own balance. Yes, they make their own balance, and the balance, although it does have a screw-based micrometric regulation system. Most of the timing changes are done using the variable inertia screws on the balance rim. So that's how that works. 3 hertz beat rate, all of this pivots on 38 joules. It is a very large movement that is built to fit the case in a hand-and-glove fashion. Now you can see everything that's silver colored is steel. And on those components we have beveling, we have satination, and for the screws, as well as, for example, this cap right here above the barrel, we have black polish or mirror finish. Then the base plate, as well as the bridges, German silver, which is a nickel copper zinc alloy with the copper giving it that golden hue. And this is a nod to the way pocket watches would have been made in East Germany in Glashütte during the 19th and early 20th century. So you have the little homage. We have exceptionally broad stripes, which is a distinctive and unusual look. And note the presence of both polished screws and fired violet brown screws. It actually takes a shorter, more disciplined firing to get that color than to get blue. So you have to really be quick with your hands to remove the screws at the right time. You could see that even substructures like the bridge for the escapement below the balance, those are finely finished with snailing and beveling. And then note that all of the sapphires used here are clear sapphires rather than concentric rubies in order to give it a nice pale aesthetic, with the only real color coming from the German silver components and the fired screws. A truly beautiful execution and really as good as it gets. You can see there's snailing on top of the barrel, media blast on the base plate. The screw-based steel micrometric adjustment system has been mirror polished on its top, and the balance cock has a degree of intricacy to its hand engraving that you can get when you're Moritz Grossmann making hundreds of watches a year. Lange cannot do this. They can't spend this much time on that part because Lange is making thousands. Also, if you look both on the steel components and on the German silver components, we have a beautiful mirrored anglage, and then all of this with a 30-meter water resistance, which is what you expect of a dress watch. It's not made for swimming. When you move your wrist around, you can feel very lightly the bump of the hammer in action, which I find absolutely divine. Note the use of a mirror-polished spring on each side, so it has a little bit of a bounce and rebound when it hits. Again, this is the world's most beautiful and delightfully anachronistic automatic winding movement, past or present. Take a look at the bridges too. You see all the characters, the numerals, and the letters. These are freehand engraved into the bridge. Those are not executed with a drill, a lathe, or a laser. Everything about this movement is exceptional. Note the use of golden chaton cups for the pivot jewels, because that's how it would have been done in antiquity. A precision golden cup made, the jewel pressed into that, and then the assembly fixed into the bridge or place using screws. And that's how it's done here. You can also see the use of media blast on some of the surfaces on the mechanism of the winding device. This is as good as it gets, guys. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.